Exactly. Hello, hello, hello. Let's see here. Here we go. We're live.
Hello.
This is the camera.
That's the camera. Hi, camera.
That's the camera too, but this is the camera right now. I'll bounce around a little bit, just for that effect. Oh, I'm gonna go move it sideways now. Well, anyway. I have this weird, possibly rude tradition of having the guest introduce themselves. So everybody, this is Dawn. She's gonna tell you who she is.
Excellent. I'm Dawn. I am a developer advocate for Launch Darkly. I live here in the lovely city of Seattle.
The Emerald City.
Yes. It's so nice. I moved here twice.
Yeah, I've done that too.
Oh, it's a great.
Moved here, moved away, moved back. I'm done now.
That's what I say, but then, where I was like, where should we move next? I'm like, I'm not moving. Yeah. I'm not done remodeling the house yet.
There you go.
Yeah, and so that's kind of me in a very, very small nutshell. And
very
we'll
cool.
Learn more over the next however many minutes.
If anybody's curious, boom, there's Launch Darkly on Twitter. Go check them out. And then, I moved our picture. There we go.
There we are.
So, back to us. So tell me, what is Launch Darkly? I mean, there's a rocket ship.
There is a rocket, yes.
But I'm not particularly super familiar.
So Launch Darkly is a feature management solution. Okay. So we provide the ability to wrap flags around features so you can separate deployments from releases.
Yeah.
And it's not just for release management. Launch Darkly is also used from an operational perspective of control valves, kill switches. Customers use us for
kind of like feature flag A/B testing sort of stuff too.
Yeah, experimentation, entitlements. So you want to have different levels of features for different groups of people.
Yeah.
And so you can do that via feature flags.
That's like I was just looking at Twitch today, and I'm thinking about how can I become a partner? Gotta have, I think they did 75 people average watching at one point, and 25 hours of video and something else. There's these criteria you have to meet. Mm-hmm. And I was plotting. I'm like, how do I get to that point? And then you get there, and then boom, all these new little features appear in your interface. Yeah. And you do the stuff with the features, whatever the features are. I don't even know.
And then you need to move to the next level and the next level.
Right, exactly. So yeah, and they always have other little things, and you can go look at your queue of things and know where you're ranked and stuff like that. It's pretty neat. Gamification of stuff to some degree. And then I guess y'all are doing the actual control gate.
Correct.
Of when you can go get to that next level.
Right. So the back end code at Twitch can be, when these levels are met, automatically unlock this, and we can set those thresholds, and so you don't have to call somebody on the phone and say, "Hey, I've done this. Can you change?"
That
call people
sucks.
on the phone that has ever done these days. I don't know why.
Just text or send an email. I don't have to do anything. I can just queue it up. Yeah, it's amazing how much we really don't talk on the phone these days. It makes me chuckle a little bit. I do get a lot of, let's see, what is it lately? The IRS has issued a warrant from my arrest. Mm-hmm. I actually got a Chinese call where they've been some spammers or whatever been attempting to spam the Chinese speaking population. And I guess somehow I got put in there, even though I do not speak Mandarin or anything of that sort. But I got one. And I listened for a few minutes, too. I was like,
oh,
okay. And I just went, and they kept going. So eventually I think they got bored because I was just like, no.
The last phone call I got was very interesting. My son was over at a friend's house, and I'm on a call for work, and I get a series of phone calls. I'm like, this isn't good. So I tell my boss I have to put him on hold and go take this call. It's my son's friend. you need to come over here now.
Oh God.
Our parents aren't home, and there's a squirrel loose in the house. Okay.
They know squirrels aren't vicious, right?
They were 10-year-old
Still bothered by the squirrel.
children and very concerned that there were 2 dogs and a squirrel running around the house. So
I mean, that was probably the responsible thing to do. I can't say I would have made the wise decision at 10 years old. I'd have been like, oh, a squirrel! And then probably chased it around the house 5 hours.
that's what I thought my child was going to do. So I'm like, I'll be right over.
Yeah.
Because like, he'll be like, I can rescue this and I can catch it and then I will have a pet.
Yeah. There you go.
So,
Pet
yeah.
squirrel. Yeah, I have looked at them, though. They are kind of vicious looking if they bare their teeth. They look like they could gnaw a finger clean off.
Yeah.
So that's up there with like you need to come over here right now, or a boss saying, hey, can we talk in 5 minutes? Sure, what's up? Talk to you in 5 minutes. Those types of things. I saw there's a whole thing about that recently, which came up. Kind of cracked me up. So one of the other things I wanted to ask you about is another thing that you're involved in, the Right Speak Code Seattle chapter.
Yes.
What exactly? Tell me about this more.
So Right Speak Code is a nationwide organization. We have a number of chapters in different cities, and Seattle is one of them. And it is a organization that provides meetups and conferences and workshops for people with marginalized genders.
Gotcha.
So we hold monthly meetups, and the theme is either writing, speaking, or coding, and then we have a growth and self-care topic as well. And
so when you do the coding, is that like you code it and then you present it or talk about it too?
We look for open source projects in the community that are looking for contributions and help. So we generally will have an open source provider or contributor come and talk about their project, and then people will go and work on issues and take on tasks, whatever it is that they need done. Last year we participated in Hacktober.
Hacktober. I don't think I know about this.
You don't know about Hacktober? So
I'm assuming it happens in October.
It does happen in October, and it's a way to get more open source contributions. So an open source project can say, here's a bunch of good first level tasks.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of documentation tasks that I need. And you can sign up and participate, and t-shirts and all other stuff is given away. And it's a cool little project if you want to get started or spend time during the month of October contributing to open source.
I got you. I think I did actually see this last year, but it mostly struck me as Microsoft trying to get people to do docs PRs.
A lot of people will put doc PRs in because
they're
they're needed. Yeah. Documentation is incredibly important.
Right.
But also, if you're looking at people just getting started in open source, a very common thing is, hey, the best way to get started in open source, or one of the best ways to get started, is to look at documentation. Yeah. Because if you can document a project, you can start contributing.
Yeah. It feels very, very like you get more than one win. You're not just getting a PR in, you're getting a PR in, but then you're gaining the understanding. And you're gaining the understanding and beginning to contribute, and you're helping the team that has been doing it figure out if the docs are worth 2 cents. Because a lot of the time, at least in my experience, I love it when other people come in and look at the docs and offer assistance, because I've usually already written the thing, so now I'm kind of contaminated. Like, I already know how all the little weird things are and all the steps I had to go through to do it, and that's going to make me write docs that I'm going to forget all the little things I had to set, all the environmental variables or whatever. And then by the time I write the docs, I'm like, well, it seemed like I only ran 2 commands.
It's that inherent bias of course, people know you have to do these 25 steps first before you get to here. Yeah. We've internalized things so much that it's hard for you to step back and say, as a novice, as a beginner, what are really all of the things that need to be done to get to that
Yeah.
point? You know, as ridiculous as it sounds, start with turn on the computer, open the project.
Yep.
You don't need to go to that level, but start documenting at that
Some,
point, and then figure out what items actually can be left out.
I was gonna say sometimes it helps to start from that level. One of the things that I've done to force myself into the situation of writing docs that are actually going to include the steps you actually have to do when you start from a base of a very defined point. Like, here is a machine with Ubuntu, 1804, period, nothing else. What do you have to do from that point?
Mm-hmm.
Like, a lot of the time I'll go through and like I've run if config, or not if config because it's not on there anymore. I've run IP something to get an IP, and then I wrote a little bash script, and I've immediately forgotten about that. And I'm just like, well, you need an IP. I didn't tell you how to get the IP. You might not know how to get the IP, and I've just put it somewhere,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved on. So at that point, you're completely broken if you're trying to follow my instructions. So, but by doing that, I forced myself to go through the steps of starting from scratch, and I figure out how to do a thing, and then I go back on a clean like VM or something and just do it from scratch, and then write down all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And generally, I can get the steps then, and I'll be like, oh yeah, I had to do this. I had to get IP and call this, and then I had to return it to a bash variable, and then reassign it and like lowercase some other things, and then put this IP over here and whatever steps. And so often that's the stuff that I forget, even if I've spent like 3 hours debugging the problem.
Yeah.
And it's not good. It always drove me nuts when I was just starting with something. And you mentioned beginners or novices. A lot of time too, just like super senior people. They're like, "Well, how'd you get the thing? It's just there. You just kept going. I can follow it, but like,
Mm-hmm.
I want to know what you did."
Yeah.
So, I think it helps to really step back and get other eyes on it. You know, like you were saying.
I'll never forget, at a previous job, I was asked to create some tutorials on how to use the APIs.
Mm-hmm.
They're like, we don't have a lot of people using our APIs. We need tutorials. I'm like, okay, I can go and create some tutorials. So I got the docs.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, oh, now I see why nobody's using these APIs. Because I'm like, this isn't working. I'm like following the steps in the documentation. And so I ended up having like lots of conversations with, the developers and the technical writers. I'm like, how? I'm like, you have me starting here, and I'm like, I don't know how to get
to
this
get to that point.
starting point.
Yeah.
And we realized that there was quite a bit of information missing from the documentation. So we updated the documentation, and then I created some tutorials. And
yeah,
it makes a difference.
I feel like the industry's paying a little more attention to it these days than they used to.
Yeah.
But it really sucks that the industry spent so many years, especially like pre-internet even, where it's just like people would write entire books with all these assumptions, and then all you ever had was the book, and it didn't get updated for years and years and years. I'm glad we at least have something that's updatable, and people are starting to pay attention now, where they'll notice something and they'll go back and they can update the docs. Like Microsoft has all open source docs, so you can put in a PR and say that no, this is what you need. This changed, etc. New versions out, whatever, and get that extra information in there. Hugely helpful, but it's a good thing. Good thing all around.
Yeah, documentation is a very good thing. We need more of it.
Yes. Yeah. So write extra docs. Just spare ones. Keep them lying around.
Write docs for features that don't exist yet. Start there. No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did get told once. I was leading a team writing technical white papers on something, and we're like, none of this stuff works the way we're told it's supposed to work. And they're like, well, just pretend it's gonna work this way. Really, you want technical white papers on something that theoretically does, or it doesn't physically work now, and you want it on how it's theoretically going to work. That's not how software ever turns out.
Yeah,
like stuff's going to change. But
I worked on a product once that went from one version to another, and total re-architecture. And so we had all the old documentation, and people were trying to get this thing to work, and so it wasn't working the way we expected it to when this checkbox was ticked.
Right.
So the developers went through and they're like, there's no code behind that
Yeah.
checkbox.
It's just sitting there.
There's no
Thought it looked
code
nice.
behind it.
That's pretty funny.
Yeah, we didn't write that part of the code. Like, okay,
Yeah.
do you want to go fix
I've
that?
unfortunately seen that happen more than once.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've unfortunately myself been like, oh yeah, I implemented that. Nothing's there. Shit, did I dream that I implemented it? Because that might have happened.
I designed it. I thought about it.
I did. I could have sworn I wrote every line of code for it, and nothing's there.
I think part of that's come from this. I don't know if it's a shift in the industry of deploying as quickly as possible. Right? You
Yeah.
need to get features out. There's this huge competitive pressure to create more features and push more out.
Mhm.
And the more deploys you have a day, the better. But as a result,
Find the
features.
checkbox faster.
Like, yeah, I did this. I merged that code.
Yeah.
Like, mistakes are happening. So it's not
Mhm.
just about moving as quickly as you can. It's about making sure that things work
Yeah.
as well. Because failure and moving quickly don't
always jive as
no.
well as they should. Or could. Yeah. It's always it's an ongoing challenge in every pull direction. So
Yeah, I'm all for continuous integration, continuous delivery, but it also implies continuous testing and verification and
got to get all the pieces hooked on.
yeah, like don't skip these things.
So speaking of all that and building things, we both attended API CityConf.
We
recently.
did, yes.
I don't even think we knew we each were attending API CityConf.
No, surprise.
Yeah, so that was cool. It's always cool to go to conferences and run into people that you are intending to meet soon. What was your takeaway from the conference? What'd you learn? What'd you go for? That's the other thing, I guess. The big question. Right?
The big
what
question.
Did you go in the first place for?
So part of my job as a developer advocate is to, talk to people in the community, figure out what people need.
What?
I know. Some people don't know what a developer advocate is, and
People talk to each other in the development advocate community.
sometimes.
No, yeah, sometimes. Every once in a while.
So I go to events to kind of hear what people are talking about, and then think about, are there opportunities for our product or solution to help with this? Are there ways that we can make this easier? How does it all kind of gel and come together? So that was, my intention of going. And anytime there's a local event and I don't have to get on an airplane, I really enjoy that. So send me Seattle events, and I'm, Portland too. I'm okay with Portland.
Yeah, basically the Cascadia bioregion, right? Well, not so much. I love Boise, but it's a little further over there. But Vancouver, BC, Portland, Seattle.
Yeah.
I feel like I can get to, or even Olympia. Like I do meetups in Olympia every once in a while. Salem, there's a couple meetups down there that I'll go to that got like a good audience. Eugene, so there's other places too. But yeah, definitely like the big cities: Portland, Seattle, Vancouver, BC. There's like an endless stream of conferences that are pretty top bar, really, if I may say so myself. So yeah, I love the same thing because it's just like I can ride the train. If it's here, I can just like go wherever it's at. It's not a big deal. I love that because if I don't have to go to the airport, which is ironic because the airport was right next door. Yeah. So I'm like, I'm going to the airport to not go to the airport.
It was very weird to be going there and not end up in front of an airplane.
I was chuckling at myself as I rode the light rail out, and as I'm coming up, I see like Alaska Air had one of its like custom painted planes right there. I was like, oh, it's one of the Airbuses, which is they usually just have Boeing planes. I'm like, oh, it's an Airbus, so I took it for some of my airplane friends, and then I'm like, I'm sending them pictures of airplanes, and I'm not going anywhere on an airplane. This is really surreal. But it was nice. I kind of enjoyed having a reason to go way down there.
Yeah. So that was kind of why I went. And some of the talks that I really enjoyed at that event, and the content is, a lot of people were talking about documentation. So, yay, that makes me happy based on our earlier conversation.
Good job, documentation people.
Yes. And I really enjoyed one talk later in the day on like accessibility.
Mm-hmm.
And this idea that it's not something that's a nice to have, that you're doing a benefit, that you're helping other people out, but it's something that is necessary. Everybody is potentially going to be needing those enhancements at some point, even if it's temporary. You break your hand and you can't type. Like, you need to be able to get through a website without typing, so that some of those accessibility features may come in handy.
So I spent about 3 hours talking about accessibility, far beyond the realm of just tech stuff. Got into conversations about everything from sidewalks to accessible houses, etc. And one of the things that I know, like the urban planning community has finally really started to speak about accessibility in a way that makes me, and I believe a lot of other people, very happy, in saying point blank, a lot of the argument used to be, well, you got to do extra stuff, it's going to cost extra, we got to figure out funds, blah, blah, blah. Like, all these, what we might call concern trolling arguments would come up about, like, well, we don't know if we can make, like, a wheelchair ramp or whatever. And it's like, well, how about if you don't make the curb right there? What, you can not do a thing and make it better?
Yeah.
And by proxy of that, like, that community, the urban planning community, has really started to push that if we think about it beforehand, it's not like we're doing an extra thing. It means we're building it right for everybody to start with. And it doesn't have to cost a lot of extra money. It doesn't have to, like, turn into big extracurricular activities outside of, like, build the thing. You just build it so that people can use it, like, all people can use it, and you find that you're not having to, like, go way out of your way in weird, convoluted, concerned ways.
Right.
And it's the same thing with the web. Like, if you make the web page accessible, not only do people that maybe need a particular feature or capability or something to be able to get at the page have that, but now you also need it, like you just said, when you need it. But also, like, the automation of the page. If you're going to utilize the page in any way besides just, like, maybe stare at it or not stare at it or whatever, you have options to do so now, instead of going, well, the web page doesn't really fit, the colors are weird, I can't access this button or whatever. It's like, everybody has those problems. Not just some people. Everybody can have those problems. So you really need to just put it first, and then you notice it disappearing as a problem space.
Right.
To fight. You don't have to fight it. You can just build for all of it, and it works. And
just because somebody's getting something more accessible doesn't mean something's being taken away from you.
Right.
Like, this also helps you. So yeah, like, I really enjoyed, those aspects of it. And then, in my job, it's like, well, how does this tie in with, Launch Darkly and, feature flags? So I'm always looking at, how those, overlaps. Those things overlap, and thinking about, if you are visiting a site on a regular basis and say, like, I always want, larger font or whatever, you can set that preference, and within feature flags, you could say, well, they've asked for this preference, so this feature is incompatible with these other features, and so disable those features and don't show them to people that are using various assistive technologies.
Right.
So you can make that experience for those users so much easier and better without having to do a lot of heavy lifting, because it's all being automated.
Yep. I got a friend who is, I don't know what percentage blind, but pretty blind, but uses transit on a regular basis, is very apt at it. And until you are told or meet the person, like, in person, do you even know that this individual is blind? And I saw his typing device, I guess, keyboard. It's a keyboard, I guess. But like he's got a typing device that he can bring, and it's like a mobile phone device. It's like connected Wi-Fi, and he can do Twitter and stuff on it,
Hmm.
and also can do all of his bus riding or whatever. And he loves to get out on transit and go explore places and all these different things. And I think I probably interacted with this individual for 2 years before I realized that he's like 98% blind or something. And he showed me all of these things, and he's like, for a long time, the way I had to use Twitter was this hacky way where you'd have to tab over every single thing and listen to like all these crappy interface pieces. And he's like, do you know what this actually is called? And I'm like, no. And he's like, it's the L1 right blah arrow thing, blue, blah, blah, blah. Like this huge word or description of like a keyboard combo of two things. And he's like, this is stupid. And when Twitter finally cleaned it up, he said he could actually use Twitter when he went to explore transit. And, you'd always talk about like how certain accessibility things like a bus work or don't work or whatever. And I was just super fascinated that I didn't know for so long because he was so apt at getting around on transit and everything. I just thought he was just some fully abled whatever doing some random nerdy topic hobby thing. But no, he actually had a much more in-depth understanding of all these things. And when I actually got to hang out with him, he was super stoked that I was interested in this, and he showed me how all of it was. And he goes, all Twitter had to do though was just like change a few elements, and it cut down like 90% of his waste trying to get around the interface.
Yeah, I had
cool.
I had a friend on Twitter as I was live tweeting the conference. Made a comment.
Good job, by the way.
Thank you. It's one of my skills. I don't know. Yeah, I guess it's a skill.
It's a skill. Being able to like actually pay attention and tweet it and keep doing that throughout the day. I putter out like at 11 a.m. I was like, I'm just listening now. I don't know what's happening on Twitter. I'm out of it.
It also provides me like a record, so I don't have to then take notes on the side. Like those are.
I keep thinking that's going to happen. I still am.
Anyhow,
I'm not disciplined enough to keep the notes.
But related to a different talk there, which was on the user experience.
Yeah.
And how we often think of user experience of GUIs, but APIs and code. And so one of my friends had mentioned, I've often thought about, the user experience of the code itself, of text, as opposed to a graphical image. And those are some of the areas where if the user experience, if you're reading the code and you don't understand, if it's not clear, then maybe it needs to be written in a clearer way, and then that makes it more accessible. So that helps everybody out. Instead of that very long thread of, this is how I described the left-handed arrow, just call it a left-handed arrow.
Yeah, but it's interesting you bring that up. Myself and one of my fellow data Staxians were Twitch streaming some C# stuff earlier, and we were looking through the code, and we're at the point of looking through it to like relearn what's happening in a particular class and method and other things like that. And when the whole hour plus that we were streaming, it was mostly exploration and trying to determine what these method names mean and what this is here for, that's here for, and those types of things. And the UX of code definitely came up because at multiple points we're like, well, the contract makes sense. It says find thing we want. So we want to use that to find the thing we want. But how should we actually implement the underlying contract within the interface? So we just talked through that. But yeah, like it's really good to pull UX away from its weird GUI connotation. Yeah. Because it's definitely not just the GUI. It's all aspects.
And here's a really wacky idea when it comes to code. Comment and document.
No, you write
code
is readable.
Read.
Sorry, that was my snarky default reaction. Darn, it just comes right out sometimes. All method names should be 9 paragraphs long. You never had to write a comment. I can't even say it with a straight face half the time. Oh, and
tip of the day.
Yeah, it's so funny when some languages you can write some pretty verbose stuff, like COBOL. If you write COBOL, you can write a 9-paragraph long method or function or whatever. But a lot of languages, like I started doing a lot of Go in the last couple of years, and the convention is to use somewhat cryptic names sometimes, or single character names for variables. And if you're like, well, the variable names there, it's self-descriptive. Yes, E is self-descriptive. I know exactly what E is. No, I don't. Nobody knows what it is. Unless you've are entrenched in the convention already, you have no basis of understanding of what that is right off the bat. So leave a little comment. Oh, it's an event. E is event today. Tomorrow it might be something else. Who knows? But it's a quick reminder when you dive into a language where they have a set convention and somewhat cryptic things that if you don't put a little documentation here or there or comment in the code, then you're just going to look at it and be like, don't. You're just not going to know.
Design guides, style guides, writing guides, all of these guides exist in other disciplines. And I'm not going to get into the tabs versus spaces debate, but put a guide together.
You don't have an opinion?
No, I don't. Sorry.
I got lots of degaff about that too. I'm like, you know what? Mostly my editor deals with that. I don't know. Whatever you want me to, just put the code in front of me. I'll look at the code. I don't care how many spaces you put in there or tabs.
Yeah, but when you're creating something, always start from, a design guide perspective of how are we going to name things? Even if you're talking about Slack, how are we going to name our Slack channels? Are they all prepended with something like, this is a fun Slack channel, this is a customer,
That would be smart considering the catastrophe that a lot of channel lists have become.
But if you do that with everything, if you come up and start with just a basic, it doesn't have to be in depth, a one-pager, this is the convention that we're going to use for how we do our feature flags, of how we write our code, of how we write our documentation. It makes things so much more understandable and helpful for new people as they come and view that for the first time.
Kind of goes back around to that whole document stuff.
Shocking.
It's a form of documentation, yeah.
It all comes back to documents.
Yeah. I did get I got some shit recently because I said honestly a lot of this code writing, programming thing that it boils down. The hard part is making sure to make it easy for the next humans that are going to be doing it. And somebody said, well, that's just you senior developers always say that. And I'm like, okay, you have a point. Sometimes, depending on your point of view, the code still could be the hardest problem. I'll give you that. But yes, I have that that feeling at this point in the industry that most of our work needs to be around the periphery of the actual code itself to make sure that it's usable ongoing. Otherwise, we just are going to continue to get COBOL and what was one of the the whole Java / C# phases where there's all this cruft built in an enterprise, and then basically it's all junk in about 5 years. But they still need to get 10 years of use out of it or whatever. And they're like, it needs maintained. And you go look at it and you're like, nope. No idea what any of this is doing. Every variable is one letter. There's no comments. And somebody wrote this documentation, but it's 4 years older than what now is, and I think it was written for the wrong spec because somebody told me to make up what I think it should work like.
Makes sense to me, yeah.
Not that I've ever seen a scenario like that. Yeah, crazy stuff. So, couple last thoughts here. Besides Launch Darkly and Write Speak Code, any other things you do, attend, are involved with that you want to mention?
Sure. So the other one that's not, and I was realizing today that I actually need to update my Twitter bio because there are a few more things that I've gotten involved with because one or two is never enough. Yeah. I'm also one of the organizers for the Seattle DevOps Meetup. So that's just Seattle DevOps Meetup. We kind of relaunched in July. It used to exist about a year and a half ago, and it stopped, and it's now been resurrected.
Seattle
DevOps meetup.
We're gonna pull it up for you. So, well, maybe.
Yeah,
Seattle
sure.
DevOps meetup.
That looks good. Yeah, I'm in there.
All right, everybody.
So we meet.
There it is.
Yep. Wednesday. We meet one Wednesday a month. This month is September 18th. So you have nothing going on September 18th. Come on down to Chef. There will be 2 talks. One on docs for DevOps. So if you want to know more about docs.
And welcome to Cloudland. I haven't traveled there yet. Oh, that's good.
And yeah, a second talk on, what is this cloud thing that everybody is talking about.
Cool. Have you gone forward and just recursively set the invites, or do you actually have...
We wait until we know kind of who the speakers are and what the topics are going to be. I'm working on the list for October right now of speakers. So if you have ideas or thoughts on something that you want to talk about, I think for October, since it's October, we're going to do like nightmare.
Oh, Jennifer Davis. Jennifer Davis is going to speak in October.
November. That's...
Oh, you need to update this.
Yeah, I know.
Oops.
So I'm pretty sure that's November.
Okay, so Jennifer Davis is talking in November, not October.
Yeah. But yeah, I think in October we're going to do kind of a theme of nightmare on call, nightmare releases or deploys that, could have been done differently if,
I was going to say, I'll come give a presentation. I don't know if I have any nightmares.
Right.
I've been pretty disciplined about making sure I don't have nightmares scenarios.
So good. So how did you prevent those? Like, what are things that you do to prevent those nightmare scenarios? So we'll chat about what. Yeah.
Talk about that sometime too.
Yeah, definitely.
But I have my whole Azure Terraform thing that I've been building, crafting artisanally in a non-artisanal, reproducible type of way that I would love to come talk about. I would love to get people's 2 cents on the matter too. So I have to talk to you about that.
Yeah, definitely. And then the other thing that I don't even think I've announced this anywhere publicly. So you're getting the first breaking news.
Breaking news.
I've also joined the organizing committee for DevOps Day Seattle.
Oh, sweet. DevOps. I know everybody knows where DevOps Days Seattle is, but I'm going to try to bring it up here anyway. If I can type. Nope. Click Dev. Oh, maybe I should add days. Here we go.
There we go. Yeah, so I've been attending DevOps Day Seattle since the first one. I've spoken there 3 times, and so I figured I'm taking it to the next level, and I'll be helping to organize that event as well.
I got to speak at the Vancouver one.
Nice.
This year. Not last year. This year.
It seems so long ago.
It does. But we're halfway through the year already. So that's awesome. Good job on getting involved with all those things.
Yeah, so I don't know what I'm going to have time to, work, see the family, other things like that. But yeah, that's my life right now.
Kid's 10 now, right?
Almost 11 next month.
Yeah, completely self-sustainable.
You think so?
Yeah, totally self-sustainable. Yeah. You don't even have to feed him anymore. Oh, yeah. I think at 10 I would go about 8 hours before I was like, I'm dying. I need food. So
he eats nonstop. I think I had a Twitter post earlier this week of what the day was like with him, and I'm like, this is what his day was like, and then he's like eating nonstop now.
Yep.
Boys, children, whatever.
Like I've been doing that too, but it's house renovations.
Yeah.
It's been kicking my ass, but all good stuff. So awesome
this
talking
was
to you.
Pleasure. I enjoyed it.
I hope you enjoyed my nerd home here.
I do. I'm fascinated by all kinds of things.
I'll give you a quick tour. So if you want a quick tour, you got to come have a conversation with me. So come join me sometime. And until next time, cheerio, everybody.